Hey guys, it's Brandon. I'm going to do a video tonight on a game, a 5-minute game I played on ChessCube earlier. I wasn't recording, I was just playing, but it was sort of an instructional game, so I thought I'd go over it. And ChessCube is having some problems with their servers, or they're doing some maintenance or something. I can't get into my game history, so I just saved the PGN and before I closed it, and we're going to view it now in Bob's Chess. But I was the black, and my opponent played the Banco's opening, and this is a good example of two major rules in chess, and the consequences that can come when they're violated. The first rule being that when you give your opponent the bishop pair, you don't want to open up the game. You want to leave the game as closed as possible. Or if the game's already pretty open, you want to think twice about giving your opponent the bishop pair. And the other one is leaving your king in the center, the uncastled king. There's a reason that everybody's taught to castle as soon as possible, and we'll see why here. So my opponent plays g3. Banco's opening. I see this a lot in Blitz. I haven't really studied any lines or anything, except in that if it transposes into the king's Indian attack setup. But I like, when I play it against it in Blitz game, I like to play the French defense against it. So g3, e6, bishop g2, d5, because with the French pawn structure here, e6 and d5 limits the scope of this bishop on the nice diagonal here. It can only come out to f3 or maybe h3, and it's just sort of biting on concrete. So he develops knight to f3, allowing me to grab the center even more. So c5, that's the move in the French that you want to get in pretty much as soon as possible. The Caro-Kann also, but you try to get it in as soon as possible in the French also. So grabbing space in the center and staking control of d4, which he contests immediately. And since the battle is over the d4 square in the French defense in most variations, I don't mind. Usually, if white plays the French defense properly, when the c5 break comes, he can get. He usually has a c3 as an option, like in the advanced French defense. Sometimes not, though. It depends on the variation. But in a lot of like the closed Tarrasch or the Steinitz variation, you get in c3 so that the d4 pawn and this pawn chain on often on e5 and d4 can be maintained. And in exchange, black gets this open c file and a minority attack with the a and b pawns on the queen side, and some more queenside space to play on. And white tries to mate on the king side, but I'm digressing. In any case, I'm happy to exchange this pawn and open up the c file. Well, it's a semi-open c file, but so he plays knight takes. Just some development here, knight development. For some reason he decides to grab that knight immediately. I'm not quite sure why, but I think this is probably a mistake, because after b takes c6, my problem of the my bad bishop, my bishop on c8, my light square bishop, which is the problem piece in the French defense, is sort of solved. I can play bishop a6 right away, or a5 bishop a6, anything like that, and maintaining the solid pawn structure in the middle. Dark square bishop guarding the dark squares along here, and the light square bishop outside of the pawn chain. That's the optimal setup, what you're really hoping for when you play the French defense. So he decides to open up the game a little bit with c4, and I just said, yeah, I'll encourage him to do so. Got the two bishops. I got my bad bishop out. I don't mind the game being opened a little bit. So I'm threatening, obviously, bishop takes c5, running a pawn, and he can't play c4 because of bishop takes c4, which would both develop a piece and capture at the same time. So developing with tempo, or capturing with tempo, I guess. Well, not really tempo, but anyway, so c takes d5, c takes d5, and some development. Knight takes c3, knight f6. This move maybe was an accident or something, like he picked it up and then put it back down, or I don't know. But this move doesn't make much sense to me unless he really feels like he needs to guard that e2 pawn. But I mean, he's not really coming after anything. I guess he could play. Yeah, I don't really see it, but so anyway, some development. Now he's pinning my knight, and I have the option of playing something like, you know, h6, and he can't play bishop g4. If I were to play h6 in this type of position after castles, you know, I have the option of playing h6, kicking the bishop away, which can't maintain the pin, because if it goes to g4, then if it goes to h4, then pawn g5 just wins that bishop. So, but after I castled, he gave me the bishop pair without even me having to play h6. So now this is where we start to see the game get extremely dangerous for him, because he's yet to castle. I mean, he should probably castle right away here. The game is getting open, and he's giving me the bishop pair, and the game is getting open, and his king is sitting there right there in the center on e8, so, or on e1. So instead, he decides to play e4. Now I think his idea here was, if I don't capture the pawn, obviously I just lose a pawn, because he's got a lot of pressure on the d5 square. So he can play. So if I just say make a move like rook to b8, well, after pawn takes, he can play knight takes, attacking the queen. So that just drops a pawn, or even bishop takes, but knight takes is stronger, dropping the queen, because I have my rook on b8 in that circumstance, and then he can defend the b2 pawn. But in any case, you know, I'm not gonna, with all that pressure coming down on the d5 square, I'm just, you know, willing to trade it. And this bishop isn't hanging. Well, it's sort of hanging, but if he plays queen takes bishop, then queen takes bishop on f3, and then his best move would be castles to protect his other rook and prevent, because if he goes after this bishop, then queen takes rook check, king moves, queen takes the other rook, and the game would be over. But anyway, we're going down lines here that haven't really been have anything to do with the game. So anyway, I took on d5, but now, like I said, queen takes isn't possible because of well, it's possible, but it would just be a trade of bishops. Queen takes, then he couldn't go after this undefended bishop because of queen takes rook, check, king moves, queen takes the other rook. So, but his idea here, he decided, I think, on knight takes e4, because I think he thought maybe he could win a piece by attacking the queen. After knight takes e4, attacking the queen, I think he's thinking queen has to move, say to e7, then knight takes bishop, winning the bishop because that knight's defended by the queen. But in reality, I don't think that doesn't actually win the bishop, because of rook d8, either rook a d8 or rook f d8, pinning that knight to the queen, and then he has no other resources to defend that knight. So rook takes knight, or queen takes knight, if maybe he wants to go into a queen trade. I don't know. Anyway, so that idea doesn't work because of that reason, but also because of this reason. Now his king is in the center, and I've got these two beautiful bishops that are just going to come in here and wreak some havoc. So bishop b4 check. He has only a couple moves, as I see it. He could play knight c3 blocking the check, knight d2 blocking the check, or queen d2 blocking the check. None of them are particularly good options. Queen blocking would obviously be the worst, but so I've just ignored this attack on my queen and played check. And neither of us found the best continuations from here. Knight c3 was the best continuation for him, followed by, for me, rook d8 attacking the queen, and then the queen can't really get away without being captured. But he plays knight d2, and after this move, my best continuation would have been rook to d8, pinning that knight and threatening to win it just, offhand. And the queen is sort of trapped. It can't really go anywhere because my queen's going to come in and threaten mate. So we see these two bishops are just absolutely strafing the squares where his king can get around. And that's the power of the two bishops especially on neighboring diagonals like this, just cutting off all these squares. So I didn't find the best continuation there. This is a blitz game, and thinking through all of that is not really the best. I just played queen e5 check, thinking that his only move was bishop e4, but it's not. Obviously, it's bishop e2 is possible, and then he's still in some trouble. And I think after I checked the game later on with Houdini, it said after bishop e2, I would have been up like 6 pawn advantage or something like that. So not the best continuation, but in any case, he played bishop e4, and then it's a mate in 2 after queen e4 check, queen e2 only move, and then queen e2 mate. So that's how the game ended, and that just goes to show you this is the one thing you don't want to do in chess. Leave your king in the center, give your opponent the 2 bishops, and then open up the game. Violating those 3 rules spells quick defeat if your opponent knows what he's doing. So, hope you guys enjoyed that video, and I'll see you next time.